Welcome back. So, the first thing that I'd like to do on this module is I'd like you to take a look at these two pictures. And if you had to say which one of these two women you find more attractive, which one would it be? So take a moment, kind of go with your gut, and figure out which woman you would be more likely to be attracted to, number one or number two.
Telling the truth could cut down on which ailment by 56%?
Paranoia? Depression? Or headaches?
We're using numbers to tell us everything we need to know about lying, including how hard it is for our brain to tell a lie. But first, did you guess which ailment is improved by telling the truth?
Was it paranoia? Depression? Or headaches?
The answer is headaches. A Notre Dame study found that people who told the truth experienced 56% fewer physical health problems, particularly headaches, than those who regularly told lies. It's no wonder that telling the truth makes your head feel better, because telling a lie is actually an incredibly hard thing for our brains to do. Every time you try to tell a lie, 3 areas of the brain kick into overdrive. That's a lot of work. Running from the truth is harder than we think. So sometimes lying might seem easier than telling the truth, but for our brain, it's torture. Fortunately, there are credible ways to spot liars, and here are 3 of them that you could even use tonight or tomorrow at work. Try this first one with me. Poker players are some of the best liars in the world. And if you notice, a lot of them wear sunglasses when they play. Why? Because their eyes can subconsciously tell their opponent if they're lying or not. For our experiment, they've agreed to play without sunglasses. Today our players will be playing Texas Hold'em. It's a complex game of strategy where bluffing is the key to winning.
Check it. 300. Ooh. Trying to scare me off?
What do you think? Who's bluffing? Who's telling the truth? The answer is right in front of you. And here's a hint. Pay attention to their eyes. It's a poker player's favorite way to see if their opponent is bluffing or not.
You have something?
Remember, it's all in the eyes.
I'm all in, baby.
Who's bluffing? And who's telling the truth?
Alright, you got me. I have 2 pairs by fold. Sounds good to me. Oh my gosh.
Player 1 was bluffing with ace high. Player 2's 2 pairs would have easily won, but player 1 convinced him otherwise. But let's look again, because player 2 should have known his opponent was lying the whole time. Did you notice anything? Here's your first tip. Look at their pupils. Science tells us that when people's brains have to work hard, like solving a math problem or lying about an acceptable income, their pupils often dilate. Let's look at those eyes again.
You have something?
Liar, liar. But it worked because player 2 didn't notice. If the pupil changes size, you found the lies.
So let's go back to this picture now. As you can see, one of the women has her pupils are dilated. So in the last part of the video, the last 2 videos that we watched, we learned a little bit about lying, and we found that when the sympathetic nervous system is activated, the pupils dilate. But when the parasympathetic nervous system is activated, then the pupils constrict. So in this particular picture, so we saw with the lying, we saw that when someone lies, we usually feel guilty about it, nervous about it. It makes us work a little bit harder to come up with a lie, so our pupils dilate. Now, the reason why I started this module with which one do you find more attractive is actually research has found is that when we feel excited about something, so our sympathetic nervous system will be activated when we feel upset about something, fight or flight, but it also gets activated when we strongly desire something. And so when someone's very excited and passionate about something, then their pupils dilate. So a lot of times we might say to somebody, gosh, there's a sparkle in your eye, or there's some kind of glow about you. And what the sparkle in their eye is as you can see, when your pupil dilates, it reflects more light. So in class, a lot of times I show SpongeBob. So SpongeBob SquarePants is a pretty famous cartoon, and when SpongeBob gets emotional, they show him with multiple white spots in his eyes. But when he's not as emotional, then they might just have one white spot in his eye. And then in contrast, Plankton usually has a very small pinpoint pupil and definitely a small little dot in his eye to show that he's kind of a bad guy. So when you look at any of the Disney movies or cartoons, the way they usually depict the good guys is with a dilated big pupil, and the way they usually depict the bad guys, it's with a constricted pupil. So in any case, there was this drug, well, it's still around, it's called atropine, but it had a slang name back in the Victorian era called belladonna, and belladonna means beautiful lady, and so women would put this drug in their eyes because it would make their pupils dilate, and that they thought that that made them more attractive to men. And in actuality, men do usually, when men are shown pictures like this, they choose the woman with a dilated pupil. They'll say, she just looks a little bit warmer, she looks a little bit more inviting. So what's interesting about the belladonna is the women couldn't see very well because their pupil was too dilated, so it was interfering with their vision, but I guess that's the cost of being beautiful. Okay, so what we want to take away from this module is we want to take away that the sympathetic nervous system dilates the pupil and the parasympathetic nervous system constricts the pupil. So when the police officers are shining lights in your eyes, they're basically testing, a lot of times as they're testing your tracking to see if you have something called nystagmus, which is where your eyeball jumps, and different drugs will cause a vertical nystagmus or a horizontal nystagmus. But also what they're doing when they're waving the light is they're looking for your pupil dilation and pupil constriction. So if you're on a central nervous system depressant, then what will happen is when they take the light away from your eye, the pupil should get bigger. But since you're on a depressant, it's going to get bigger and then it's going to bounce way back to constricted. And when you're on a central nervous system stimulant like cocaine, methamphetamine, when they shine the light in your eye, your pupil should get smaller. But what you'll see when they're on a drug is you'll see it gets smaller and then bounces way back up to the dilated pupil. Okay, let's go on to our next feature.